just a little
regular handheld camcorder, and it takes pictures and records them.
Cool.
It's a good little deal.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off with if you normally have any observations as far as maybe the rate of students coming into the health center and coming in with maybe saying they have migraines or maybe ailments associated with stress.
Well, we do tend to have more people coming in towards the end of the year, and sometimes we see some stress-related issues like gastric upset, maybe headaches, but also I think that oftentimes we see physical illnesses as well that have the opportunity just because students are run down. Had they been getting enough sleep and eating well and that kind of thing, their own immune system might have been able to fight off these illnesses. But the fact that they're run down, they tend to, be more likely to catch the bug that's going around at the time, or the mono that they're exposed to, that kind of thing. So just in general, we see a lot more sicknesses, and not necessarily able to identify a lot more as strictly stress-related, but we know that body-mind all works together and is interrelated, and when one's impacted, the other usually is too.
Okay, so it might be, also their diets. Maybe when students talk to you, do they mention that maybe their diets have changed during this time of year?
Well, particularly around finals week, I think people are staying up late and studying, and so we see lots of Red Bull, lots of coffee, lots of just snacking as opposed to eating regular meals. I just have a bag of chips just to kind of keep me awake and keep me going, rather than the regular meal kind of arrangement. And unfortunately, a lot of times people don't choose the best snacks. They may go to the candy bars or the potato chips because they're easy to grab and go, a little easier than an apple that you might need to slice. So you don't really have to, obviously, but it's just a little quicker, easier to manage, and so a lot of times we do see that happening.
Okay, and are most of these things normally treatable by the health center, or is it more like
Sure,
advisable?
They are. I think it's a matter of us just trying to get to the bottom, the root cause. People do just get sick too, but sometimes if you have someone coming in for a cold and they break down and start crying, that's not a normal response generally to just a cold. And so you have to then kind of ask the question, is there something else going on, and get to the bottom of the stress issue, as well as taking care of the symptoms that are bothering the person. So I would always encourage people to seek out help, whether it's for physical or emotional, not only at the health center but the counseling center. And using the rec center is sometimes a really good way to deal with that stress as well. That's not my area that I'm in charge of, but I think that is one way that our students oftentimes do a little better job of taking care of themselves, is that they do use the rec center, and I think that's a very effective way to help deal with the stress.
And of course this time comes around every year and actually every semester.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe some people might expect the students to kind of see it coming and, the added stress. So are there any, maybe recommendations, or how come it's always the same kind of routine,
mm-hmm.
would you say?
Well, I think, recommendations from those of us who have been through it ourselves and seen students through the years go through it, we're happy to give recommendations, but they're not as easily followed as they are spoken. And that is, to try to keep up, not let everything crash in on you, do at the end. Those kind of things are probably the most helpful way of managing your stress. But, we also know that the student's life is not always that way, and so then we have to deal with what we have and try to encourage students to have fun in a healthy way. And the little things that we do on campus, having Fireside Fridays in the union. So students can come in, sit down, relax just for an hour or so, listen to a live band, have some free snacks that they don't have to pay for. A lot of times we'll have the final Scream event at the end of the semester where we provide some free food, games, movies, other activities, because sometimes students can really forget about having fun, especially in a healthy way, something outside of going out and, having a major binge drinking kind of affair, that there are other ways to have fun that are perhaps healthier and will really be more effective in reducing the stress.
And I know a lot of students drink coffee, and I even try to, cut down on it because it, sometimes it helps me, but other times it just makes me jittery.
Mm-hmm.
And so, about the students' maybe dependence on caffeine-related drinks and whatnot, what are some of the benefits of caffeine as well as, the pitfalls?
Well, I think that, they have shown that coffee actually, there's some evidence that coffees and teas reduce some cancers, that kind of thing. I think it's the dependency that we like to try to avoid, and also those people who have cardiac issues that they're aware of, because caffeine does stimulate the heart and it quickens the heart rate a bit, those kind of things. So those people are people who have cardiac arrhythmias or abnormal heartbeats probably should avoid caffeine. Using it occasionally, at a higher rate, like during finals and that kind of thing, I think it's probably going to have very little harmful long-term effect for the normal average student. It's probably more of a difficulty if you have to have it every single day to get up and get going, and if you don't have it, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't focus. That's probably more of an issue long-term.
And why does that happen when you
it's just kind of your body becomes dependent on that. Part of it, there's a little bit of physiological. I think a lot of it is also psychological, that we're just so accustomed to it that anything that's outside our normal, we may even think that it's affecting us more than it truly is.
And maybe what are some other foods that would give kind of like the same perkiness or alertness? Mm-hmm. As far as an alternative to caffeine, is there anything?
Well, sure, and I don't know if there are things that people want to hear, but for example, an apple, the natural sugars give us boosts of energy, and that doesn't mean a regular soda and a candy bar. That will do it for a very short period of time. But the natural sugars that come in fruits, because it also comes with some fiber that extends that wakefulness or alertness, is probably a good alternative. Even orange juice, but the orange would be better than orange juice because you would probably have a more prolonged effect from the sugar that you get in having you be more alert, that kind of thing. So I think protein also is probably good. So some low-fat proteins, some natural sugars in fruits, those would be very good choices.
Okay, and I just want to make sure I have the distinction correct between natural sugars and the ones found in candy bars. The candy bars,
those are simple sugars, as opposed to complex sugars. And the simple sugars tend to raise our blood sugar very fast, but it also drops very rapidly. So you may get, a burst of energy, but then within a half an hour, you're ready for a nap. And the more complex sugars have a more gradual increase and then a more gradual decrease also. So you're not feeling a real high and drop, spike and then rapid drop. That's the main difference.
And do you get many professors that maybe call into the health center, or do you notice, or do they have comments or complaints that maybe they're experiencing headaches or?
Well, we only serve students. So normally I think they would probably be talking with their own private physicians, that kind of thing. It's not very often that we have calls like that from faculty and staff. We have more calls from faculty or staff who are concerned about a student Yeah, and they may call us about that, asking for advice, or if they could assist a student to get in a timely fashion, something like that.
Okay, well that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So they're also trying to look out for their students' health as well.
Many of them are. That's for sure. Both they will call the health center if they're concerned about a student, or they'll call the counseling center a lot of times, and maybe not even directly to get that student services, but to ask for advice on how they might help that student, or what advice that they could give the student to help them. So we do have a lot of caring faculty and staff on our campus.
And do you have any students that are on your faculty as far as at the health center?
We have student workers at the health center. They're usually, at least the ones who actually work with the patients, are usually health science or nursing majors, and sometimes those can be very stressful majors, so they can certainly empathize with the students that come in to be seen. Mm-hmm. Hello.
Oh, sorry. Are you fine? And I just have, those are all my main questions. But we went over just kind of like the amount of students that come in to see the health center, and as well as some eating and nutrition tips and things like that. So.
Okay. I guess the only questions I would have, like, does it seem like more students come in later in the semester?
We generally do get kind of a peak, and then it's difficult because students often feel like it's urgent for them, and we do have 6,000 students, so sometimes they might have to wait a day to be seen. Generally not more than the next day, which we're really happy if we can provide services to students by the next day. And then there's also the issue of meeting the demands of their schedule, so that they can be seen when they're not in class, and because at the end of the school year nobody wants to miss class, because every class is so important.
Are there many students who do have conflicts with the open hours at the Student Health Center as far as classes go?
Well, we deal with that all the time, but I think that having our online appointment scheduling is really helping students a lot, because if at 10 o'clock at night they're thinking, I really should go to the health center tomorrow, they can sit down at their computer, schedule their own appointment, and have that appointment guaranteed for tomorrow. Where if they have to wait until the next day, then their day gets hectic, and they may not get the call in until noon, and by noon all the appointments for the day are taken. So I think our online scheduling system has really helped that, and people are able to schedule appointments at times that work for them a little better. It's a little more convenient.
Okay.
You pretty much covered the questions that I was going to ask. So.
Okay. And is there anything else that you would like to say as far as the relationship with students, or any other observations that you've noticed as far as their nutrition?
Well, I think what the main thing is, we just ask students to take care of themselves as best they can, because oftentimes they put themselves last on the list of their priorities. And sometimes you have to actually schedule that time for exercise, and make sure you get enough sleep, because it's really going to pay off in the end. And so that, as a healthcare provider, that would be my number one piece of advice, is to put yourself high on the priority list when it comes to your health, because it will pay off in the long run when it comes to your studies and your education as well.
Well, thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry I wasn't able to work you in.